Hello and welcome to the community. As always, JB here. Super pumped to be here today as we're going to talk a little bit about tech news and Twitter and Elon Musk's attempt to take this thing private. It's really interesting to me, not only from a professional standpoint, but also from a personal standpoint, because I remember back in, it's probably 2007, I was keynoting the blog world, and somebody came up to me and said, have you heard about Twitter yet? You need to get on Twitter. And I started utilizing Twitter and put 13,000 people in it and started working it. And then I just found it so distracting, as most social media is, that I kind of let it go. I'm still out there. You know, you can go to Twitter at Morning Coach. I put some stuff out there every once in a while. But it's an interesting platform, as all these social medias are. And as a coach, somebody that works with professional experts, professional athletes, CEOs, and people that are really looking to build their life of freedom, these platforms are tremendous time suckers. I mean, they just bring people in. There's cognitive dissonance. You're just getting fed so much information that it's hard to break away and change your paradigms and shift into new ways of thinking, right? And so as this is starting to take out there and play out, we're starting to see a little bit about what's happening behind the scenes at Twitter, and also getting a look at these social media, quote unquote, communication platforms and what they're really doing. And my interest really is about the individual and how it's affecting the individual. And you're saying, well, Elon Musk buying this, can it affect me? Well, it can. And looking at this, we look at the board of directors, right? And I found this really interesting that many of them have minimal investment in Twitter. You know, they got rid of Jack Dorsey. And then most of them are MBAs and PhDs, which again, I have my MBA and my PhD, but I find it highly overrated. The majority of things I coach and work with people now are more of my street education versus a traditional education I got all those years ago. But what I find is, who is controlling the narrative of what is happening out there? And we get in this conversation of what free speech truly is, right? And that's what we're talking about here when we start discussing this Twitter versus Elon taking it over. And again, I'm looking at the ownership of this, and you can see that the majority of the people on the board have minimal exposure in this. And do they really have the shareholders' best interests at hand, or is there some underlying motive by this board of directors? I mean, they're all making $250,000 to $300,000. That's all public information for what equates to a part-time job. And what are they really doing here? So I found this interesting, and I found some quotes that I wanted to read to you. One of them was, Twitter is committed to impartiality in the development and enforcement of its policies and rules. Okay, that's weird. I mean, it's what are those policies and rules? And this is what always worries me about communication and communication platforms. Who is making the rules, right? Because then who is determining what can be said and what can't be said? Elon Musk now holds 9% of Twitter, which is a ton, right? And he's making a bid to take the rest, but these board members are now putting a poison pill in place that is trying to knock it out so that there's no way that he can acquire and really take it on and create this area of free speech. And I think what Elon says is pretty much what I agree with. He says this: it's annoying when someone you don't like says something you don't like. I think we all agree to that, right? And then he said it's a sign of a healthy, functioning free speech state. And I think that's what we're starting to get into now, is this area of, where we're starting to censor everything that's going on, right? So Joe Rogan, another independent creator like myself, which I don't agree with Joe with everything he does, but I found it interesting that when the COVID stuff, he had some very controversial ideas and thoughts out there, right? So when he and it wasn't him, he just interviews people that come on his show and they have discussed different ideas, which for me is what great ideas always come from, is from people that are thinking differently. And what concerns me about Twitter and their attempt to try to not let this happen, right, is that you have these people that are now entrenched in a way of thinking, and they think their way of thinking is better. But what if it isn't? And that's what's always scary. And that's why free speech is so critical, and why I think it's great Elon is trying to take it over and get rid of that. I find it funny. Some of the employees are saying this. I'm dusting off my resume. One person says, I don't want to work for somebody like Musk. Okay, well, that's fine. That's up to you. That's free speech, right? And that's what's so cool about living in a world of the ability to be free and independent. You can quit your job if you don't like your boss. And somebody put in here, this Casey Bishop, I'm moving my therapy appointment for an all hands about hostile takeover to peak 2022. And I get it. I can understand the employees getting a little worried of Elon coming in, who's a very successful entrepreneur in many ventures, making some changes and shifts. My question is, what does a Twitter employee really do, right? Most of the stuff that's going on is bots and deleting, and it's crazy, right? So it's an interesting time, and I want to know in the comments below what you think. For me, I'm very concerned about people that come from academia that think they know more than everybody else just because they have a PhD, just because they have some education. As somebody that teaches professional experts and how to become a professional expert, and more importantly, how to monetize that, a lot of these people are considered experts, but their only way that they can monetize is in a traditional sense, meaning they have to work in academia. They can't get out in the marketplace because they provide no value, but just an opinion, right? And if you aren't providing value in the marketplace, it's really hard to monetize. So now all of a sudden, we've got this group of people that don't really live in the real world that are controlling the dialogue and creating cognitive dissonance in the world. And for somebody that isn't a critical thinker, and that's what we should be teaching, it's a scary place because now all of a sudden, we've hampered our ability to put information out in the world, and we literally are living in the 1984 world. We're living in that world that is controlled by a certain group of people that are pushing a certain narrative out into the world instead of having free speech. So this is a really interesting topic of discussion. I find it awesome to actually have this discussion and would love to know what your thoughts are in the comments down below as we, pursue these ideas and say, what is going on in the world? And is it really helping the world? Is it really hurting the world? For my clients and the people I work with, it's always about, hey, what can we do to monetize and can we use these platforms? But also, how can we truly support and educate people so that they can be truly independent? Because that's what really helps society move forward is when we create independency and help people take that next step. Now, I do have a funny story for you. So Tony Hesh, rest in peace, the founder of Zappos, we had a funny encounter back on this whole area. He was on a panel talking about Twitter, and I met him in the green room for speaking. If you don't know what the green room is, that's where you wait before you go on stage, right? And so he was telling me about his business at that time. He's saying, I sell shoes on the internet, and it's going to be this big thing. And here I was in personal development going, I do morning coach. It's going to be huge. I've been doing morning coach for 17 years, right? And I'm like, this is my thing. And I was young and all fired up. And Tony was like, why don't you come back to my facility and check it out? And this is what I told him, and I'll never forget this. I said, Tony, nobody's ever going to buy shoes on the internet. Now, Tony has passed just recently in the last couple of years, but I'm sure I was the guy at his speeches that he said, hey, there's a guy that told me this would never work, because the truth is shoes sold really well. And Tony, not too long after that, I was on a plane flying somewhere and I was reading the business section, and he sold that Zappos company to Amazon for the B word, $1 billion, right? So not an M word, a B word. So it's always interesting how Twitter had brought me back, and I was talking to Tony about that. That's the first time we ever met, and it was a really interesting conversation about what Twitter's future is going to be. And here we are, gosh, it's got to be 15 years later, discussing it as, billions of dollars, a communication platform, free speech versus censored speech. And what is this thing going to become? Really interesting. So as always, I love to hear the comments below. Love to help the community here continue to grow by your participation. And that is a like. That will help us out a bunch as it hits the algorithm here on YouTube, because like all these things, it's algorithm based. But I hope you're getting some great energy, and that's what you're going to get from me. I'm really committed to the community here and doing more. We want to grow that. I'm going to start doing more of these type of videos because I enjoy them and sharing my thoughts as I work to help you become a little more independent and a little more free and really enjoy life. So we'll give some updates on Twitter. Let's keep an eye on it. But Elon Musk looking to take over Twitter. Really interesting as we look at the board and what's happening. Crazy stuff. All right, until the next video, go have a great one. I love you. Do it to it, and we'll see you.